Good afternoon, and welcome to the last meeting of 2022 of the Intergovernmental Cooperation Authority for Harrisburg. We are all present. As a recap, we did accept Carla's resignation at our last meeting, and I've been in touch with Senator Costa's office, encouraging them to make an appointment as soon as possible, or as soon as they can get their minds set on anything that's normal. Next on the agenda today is the approval of minutes, which I hope everyone's had a chance to review. And if you have, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the minutes for the monthly meeting on November 30th, 2022.
So moved.
Second, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. If it seems like we were here just yesterday, we were. It was a mere 2 weeks since we last met, and a lot has happened, including nearly 15 hours of budget hearings. Marita was probably at all of them. Thank you to everyone for helping to cover all of these sessions and sharing your insights. We'll talk about the budget in a second. Ralph and I met with the mayor on November 29th, and it was a lively discussion, covered a lot of topics. And of special note, we settled on several speakers to join our meetings over the course of the first quarter next year. In January, we'll hear from the Neighborhood Services Fund, and I don't think it's a secret, Ralph, that they've asked you to help on a special ad hoc committee to really look into how we can begin to fix NSF. In February, we will have a presentation on technology, and I think we'll all look forward to seeing how Tyler really does become an added workforce for Marita to really get comfortable with all the reports, as well as being able to respond to everyone else's reports that we might like to see. And then in March, we'll discuss the economic development plan with Denise Hill. We have been told for, I think, the last 5 months that it has been written, and it is making it circulated rounds. So at some point, we'll look forward to seeing it, and I'm going to hope that we can do that before March so that we have something to talk to Denise about.
You plan on inviting Jason Graves?
We can invite anyone.
He's the small business economic development individual who helped to write a lot of it.
Okay,
He's her close colleague and friend. I think it'd be good to have him invited as well. They may choose for her to just come, but it would be good.
okay. We'll make that point, yes, because it was suggested by
Yeah, he's
Dan.
lovely.
So
He's
well,
lovely. They're both lovely.
if you can remind me or remember, that would be great. In advance of yesterday's vote on the budget, we did deliver our letter to the mayor and shared a copy with city council. And again, thanks to everyone for insights and comment on the form and content of the letter. At last night's city council, the budget was discussed. Several amendments were offered by the city, all of which were approved. And ultimately, the budget passed 6-1. I'd love to get Marita's front seat observation as to how she thinks this process went. I think, the one in February was more, it probably felt like you were flailing a little more.
Well, I think the council president was correct. If this is when it's a good time for me to speak.
Yes,
I don't-
please. Yes, please.
Was right that they as of March, they began quarterly meetings with all the department heads, particularly the key department heads, public safety, public works, parks and rec, things like that. And she mentioned last night, it just made the whole process so much smoother because they weren't piling on a year's worth of data and they were trying to ask for things that they weren't aware of. And so there was so much better communication. And plus they weren't thrust into that emergency situation, which someone said to me, it's an impossible task they're asking you to do.
Yeah.
And it truly was, because 2 people trying to do $110 million budgets, but it actually went, I think, just as smooth as the second one, although with different factors, obviously. But I'm so pleased that city council's having these quarterly meetings. We have also offered to move from our, I'm there at every meeting, but we had offered to maybe do quarterly meetings with them too, if they wish. We think that would help as well. We did, however, meet with the Chair Green of the Budget and Finance. We met with her every month, unless there was a time that she excused us or we excused her. But almost every month of the 10 months after the budget was passed in February. So that helped a great deal. She provided a lot of input to the reports we did for you and the reports we did for her for mid-year and then the budget report. So it was really, I think, a much better collaborative that the whole team is working together. I mean, there's always those, priorities one person has, somebody else doesn't, but for the most part, I think it was a team effort. I'm glad the mayor was there. She showed her professionalism as to how important the budget, her objectives set forth in the budget were, and for the most part, city council felt comfortable with those objectives. There was a discussion about the performance evaluations. I just think with the munis and all of the duties, I think there was some type of, opportunity to not execute that. And of course, we paid for it a little bit because they really would like to see them. And I think it makes sense. It's part of our policy. So I'm sure that the mayor has an objective that she would like to meet there too. But I think she has done her own performance evaluation of all her directors because she has met with all of us. But it was a little more informal than the absolute formal process. But nonetheless, she did meet with us all, a lot of the bureau chiefs she met with too. So I do think she had the perfect intention to execute. And I think that definitely will be executed in the forthcoming year, the performance evaluation. And not only that, but as you mentioned, our team is the budget team is in the mindset, thanks to myself, who has been a distinguished budget presentation award panelist for 32 years, that we need to move away from this very ordinary budget that just has numbers. And so we have a new mindset where we're going to try, I don't think we'll ever get, not in 1 year, get to that distinguished budget presentation award in 2023. But the goal is to move it closer to that so that we can meet that in 2024. And I don't know if you're familiar with it, but if you go to the GFOA website, you can review any of those budgets. You can view the criteria. I've been a panelist for 32 years, and last month alone, I reviewed 10 budgets. So across the Commonwealth and across the United States and Canada.
Is that what you did to go to sleep?
Yeah. So I do think that's kind of our goal to improve the process. So there is better performance management and measurements. And I think that's the goal. At one time we were there and we were award winners quite often.
Right.
But as things change and times change and staff change, the priorities shifted a little bit. But the mayor wants to get back to that level of professionalism. And it also helps our bond rating. If we receive the CAFR award and the budget award, it can really help shore that up in terms of how well we manage our financial resources. So said more than I probably should have, but we're happy that the budget was passed. We are very pleased with the cooperation and collaboration of the council and the mayor and council. And the budget staff's just proud to be able to move it to the next level.
Thank you. Any other observations, comments on the budget?
I think that the city council, the council vice president did thank us, the ICA,
Right.
for our correspondence that we delivered.
Oh, she read it out loud.
She
Yeah.
read, she read most of it out loud. which I
Thank
think was
goodness she didn't read the whole thing.
But it was good.
It was already a long meeting.
She captured the key.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think that it just goes to show for the application of the board that your work is appreciated by the city council, that they're glad that you take the time to watch the budget hearings and express your thoughts and opinions. And it's helpful for the city to have the role of the ICA when they make these important decisions.
Thank you. I did have a chance to speak to Danielle yesterday before the meeting. Just briefly to talk about how she felt about it. And I think she felt fairly comfortable about it. And I never know how much they talked beforehand, so I'm not sure if she knew how it was actually going to play out over the course. But the bond payment goes out tomorrow.
The 12 million is I approved it not 10 days ago, about 5 days ago, so it should be fully executed to Bank of New York Mellon by tomorrow.
Right.
Which means they have it in their depository, yeah. And then the goal is, if I'm interpreting city council's goal and the administration's goal, is that in 2023, once we capture the true view of what's happening in that first quarter, or maybe even before, is to pay the balance of the 8 million. So the ultimate goal is to reduce the interest rate as much as possible, but be practical about it in the sense of kind of watching and seeing, given the fact that the economy's been, sort of slip sliding. Could go up, could go down, but there's no way of knowing this first quarter, so I think everybody chose to be cautious. I think it's wise, but I think in the end, it'll get paid as quickly as we possibly can.
And that leaves about 22 million in the general fund balance before we get to the end of year calculation where the overage may substantially.
Well, Charles DeBruno gave us 18 million yesterday. So the current balance was 18 million as of yesterday. That's what we received.
That I must have lost some ground.
I don't know if he copied you or not,
No.
but
Oh, I think,
unless I read it wrong, I'm pretty sure that was the number I saw. I should have brought it along.
I think he may have been including in his numbers, because his was a roadmap of what he would have preferred to see.
Oh,
And
okay.
I think the 18 million was what would have been left if we paid the whole 20.
Oh,
I
I
won't,
okay.
I believe that.
Oh, that could be so. Yeah,
I
that could
think
be so.
that's what,
Yeah.
what he was.
But
so.
it's somewhere in the, or between 18
Yeah.
and 22 for sure. There's available funds.
And the conversation could be, the same conversation could be slightly different at this time next year, because there's always the difference in accounting methodology, whether when they do cash basis versus the basis that Charlie's office does with encumbrances. So with
Well, the
more-
CPAs do the full encumbrance.
then full- yeah.
So yeah, the number will.
So the
definitely-
conversation might be a little, easier to have
Right.
when everyone's working off the municipal system.
Yeah, you really need to rely on the CAFR, because the CAFR will have had that transition from the different forms of accounting. Because they're required by federal law, the GASB, to follow, to move that CAFR as close as possible. It's not perfect, but they move it as close as possible to full.
Unfortunately, the cap or it's actually the acronym. is-
I know the acronym has changed, I know.
Oh, no, what
It's
is
the annual comprehensive report, because
It's the
apparently,
acronym.
yeah,
It's not the cap or it's the
because apparently it was the,
acronym.
I don't know,
It
there's
was
some-
misunderstood by some people.
yeah,
They-
yeah.
The GFOA's, government accounting,
Pickle.
have changed the acronym.
Yeah, sorry, thank
The
you.
actual,
That's the big.
but it's,
We'll be waiting for the stickers to put down, so.
let's just call it the audit.
Okay.
The annual
Yeah.
financial
Yeah.
report.
Yeah,
But the answer is that unfortunately, it's wonderful, it's a wonderful tool, but it's so delayed in its appearance for after the period that it's reporting on, because we've had some very poor delays, including the last one,
And this one.
and this one, and so while it's a wonderful report, if it's.
well, you'll have to
exact
rely
or-
on the cash for as long as you can, but to be honest, to give you the full picture.
It would be nice if we had that, in the spring of the year, or at least
Well,
by
that's
June.
impossible to do because the audit itself doesn't even commence, at least for us, it doesn't commence until May. So it would be really hard to have the CAFR ready by,
We start in February. And
Yeah.
This, that, and we're often not exactly at the time, but generally speaking, we're done by June 1st. So we have a June 1st, so that's still half a year that you waited,
yeah, of course.
but that's better than waiting over a year.
Yeah, but you haven't had, well, I don't know if you have or not, but our staff has been so severely. cut and
Absolutely,
short.
it's completely
And one human
understandable.
being, Brian McCutcheon he's already
Yeah.
working Saturday, Sunday,
Absolutely.
every day of the
And
week
the
till
units
10
will help
o'clock, so
tremendously.
I can't expect
I
more from him.
would think
you know.
the new system.
New system will help you.
Well, not only that, but we did place an offer for, hopefully this one works out, for the financial analyst.
good.
Okay.
And she's a CPA, and so we're hoping that all systems are going on. That's not funded until April 1, so it will be sometime after April, but that will give Brian a tremendous amount of support. Tim also has an accounting background, but he's not an accountant by trade, so he helps Brian as much as he can, so do I. But Brian's in the nuts and bolts because he's the primary accountant at the city, and we're down a fiscal auditor, and we're down the financial analyst. That's two positions in the accounting offices. We've been down since August.
Maybe difficult to find.
In the finance, the fiscal analyst has been gone the whole year. So,
Rita, the timing of the upcoming ACFR
yes,
report, I believe, I think we've had a pretty good heads up throughout the course of the year as to what timing of that's going to be like. So that's not a surprise. And I think the thing to look out for will be, there's been a positive trend as far as how it's, when we stepped in, what the findings were initially on.
oh, yeah, the
audit.
findings are significantly down.
Every year they've gotten better, and I think that's a big testament to the dedication of your staff members.
And also
parentheses,
to
members.
Denise Hill, because really the findings were, a lot of them were coming from DBHD.
Yeah.
For CDBG and home, and because since she has come in, she's really been able to get excellent federal audits. Which then reflects on how our auditors, are able to examine her record. And some of that is yellow book because of the stringent standards of receiving so much federal dollars. We have to do the very intense internal control audit, so. But yes, it has improved, and we hope that it improves. I was at the final training for the ERP, yesterday, and it looks like all systems are go for January 12th for the transition. Brian McCutcheon deserves all the credit in the world for that.
So you want to explain what the ERP is for the viewers at home?
Yes, it's primarily the purchasing process that we use to execute all of our transactions. If it's over $3,000, we require a requisition. If it's less than $3,000, we require a purchase order. There are different purchasing practices. My purchasing officer knows better than I do, Hillary Green. But primarily it's our general ledger internal accounting system, So I think with that going live and the amount of internal controls that builds into the software that exists,
Right.
the general ledger software, it's going to be night and day. Interestingly enough, it's not that drastically different than animation in terms of how you set these things up. There's just more controls inside. So luckily, I don't think our staff will have too much difficulty making that transition. The staff that's like the independent department heads that are just doing the transition,
Sure.
So.
It's sort of like word autocorrect, right? It's
Not
you can't
exactly.
do that.
Yeah, not
Word
exactly,
versus
but
Word perfect, but now I'm dating myself.
Yeah.
The kids don't know what word perfect is.
yeah, but there are some controls, but they're not automatic ones. Thank God. They're ones that, we will be double checking and verifying and examining as we move through the process. We are not converting the payroll system until November. So my guess is that won't even fully get executed until January 2024. It's a little disappointing, but it's just the way the system, we can only handle so much change at one time, but I have to hand it to my staff for really kind of rolling up their sleeves. But it is also the reason why the audit is so late, because, Brian's down to one staff member. And between them, and he's spent, I think they already have his hours tabulated, like 550 hours he's spent on Munis in addition to his, normal duties. So, and then Tim, my budget manager, spent about 200 hours, and purchasing manager about 300 hours. So we put hundreds and hundreds of hours into the system. So we're really optimistic about it being a good transition and a smooth transition. There's always going to be bumps in the road. Any of you who have been through the general ledger changes, there's going to be bumps in the road, but I think it's a good step in the right direction. It's a shame we got started a little bit late, but there was the issue about whether we properly let the contract, and that's fine. That's normal during a transition.
Other comments? Before we move to Jeffrey's the authority manager's presentation, I'm going to turn it over to Mike C. For a couple of motions, information to be shared.
Thank you. So you are likely aware that back in 2019, the ICA engaged an organization. Well, it's an entity that and the name, it just slipped my mind.
Mesh, yeah.
Mesh PA, thank you. Mesh PA LLC to provide management services for the ICA, and Mesh PA LLC was hiring Jeffrey to serve in the capacity of the role of the manager for the ICA. Jeffrey has advised us that he is going to be terminating his employment with Mesh PA LLC effective December 31st this year, and beginning in January 1, 2023, Jeffrey has created a new entity, Mesh PA2 LLC, through which he will be providing services to the ICA. So in order to coordinate this process, it's necessary for the ICA to terminate the agreement with Mesh PA LLC. We can then give notification to that entity regarding the termination. And then the second step will be to approve a professional services agreement with Mesh PA LLC, which will be effective January 1, 2023. So
If I could just add a few more comments. Thank you very much, first of all, to Kathy and Audrey and Mike for reviewing this. This is a change that had to take place at the end of a calendar year for corporate reasons. As people might know in the room, I'm not an employee of the ICA. I'm a contractor to the ICA. So our relationship is not one of an employee and an employer, but of a contractor and a contractee. So this is the contract. It's a professional services agreement. I am transitioning from one entity to a different entity, and I appreciate your vote of support by helping me manage that transition by making December 31st, the end of my participation in one entity, and January 1st, the beginning of the new entity. But for all intents and purposes, it will still be me. It will just be me through another LLC, providing the exact same services. And I hope since 2019 met the requirements and the needs of the academy. And I look forward to continuing in that capacity.
And I think we have two motions, and we'll take those in succession. But just maybe before we do that, Jeffrey and I talked about 2 or 3 insignificant changes in the contract. So
Right.
when we sign the second one, there's slight amendments, maybe if you want to.
I'd be happy to go over, they are minor, but I'd be happy to review for the record. But the first ask from Mike is to terminate the relationship effective December 31st with the old corporate entity.
Okay.
So
that would be appropriate for a motion to terminate the agreement, the professional services agreement with Mesh PA LLC effective December 31st, 2022.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And then the second motion would be a motion to approve a professional services agreement with Mesh PA2 LLC effective of January 1, 2023. And we can talk about
sure,
details.
the term of the agreement has obviously changed. So that was one change between the original professional service agreement and the second professional services agreement. The other issue has to do with our computer hardware. Believe it or not, time has come to purchase additional computer hardware. And the computer hardware was in the old agreement. So the new agreement gives me the opportunity to purchase a new laptop to do the work and software for the ICA. And that laptop, we have a relationship. You pay for it, I manage it, and then if it has a value at the end of the relationship, I either buy it back from you or give it back to you. For example, when I leave and there's a new manager to take over. So that obviously that purchase of new equipment will be in the new agreement. And then I think that's it. It says that the old equipment will be liquidated pursuant to the rules of the Commonwealth for liquidating equipment.
And to be clear, the term of the new agreement is for 1 year, but it renews automatically on January 1st of each year of the existence of the ICA through December 31st, 2028.
Unless either party decides to end it soon.
Yeah, I'm looking around the table going, 2028.
Well, it's good to have contracts. You could always,
Yeah,
you could always end the contract.
no, I wasn't talking about the contract, you guys were talking about the new factory. 2028.
Oh, and just for the knowledge of everybody, the compensation rate that's paid has not changed and will not change from the initiation of the first contract into the second contract and over the contract. There's no change in the compensation rate that's paid for the services of the authority manager, which includes all the administration of the ICA, not just the parts you see at the meeting,
Right.
but everything behind the scenes, from keeping the books and filing the reports and doing the correspondence, and also interacting with the Commonwealth and with the city, and making sure everything is followed appropriately as necessary for any Commonwealth agency. So I take care of all that as part of my role as the executive director of the ICA.
So if there are no questions, I would recommend a motion approving the professional services agreement with Mesh PA 2 LLC effective January 1, 2023. So moved. Mesh PA 2. Mesh PA 2.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, everybody, for your continued support. I very much appreciate it.
And then Kathy, I think you and I have to sign
Well,
later.
we could do it at the
I mean,
close of the-
later, yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. Okay. Any other, sorry,
I have two more.
Jeffrey, sorry, I almost missed your.
That's right. The only time I really get to get involved, we do have our monthly bills paid report that hopefully you received a copy of. We started the period with a balance of $191,595.91. We were finishing the fiscal year, to the best of my knowledge, and this gets some last minute December bills. For $178,523.10, which is good. And we have our final total on interest paid by F&B Bank. They gave us $27.81 for the year of 2022. So thank you, F&B Bank, for that. The second item on the authority manager's report is the section 207 report. And I've been working with the chair on putting together the items that are necessary for our annual reports in Commonwealth, which we do every single year.
And just as
Yeah,
a
please,
reminder,
stop
no,
it.
just as a reminder, the 203 report, which we submit in April, is our view on the city's progress. Section 207 is entirely just reflective of the ICA itself.
Correct. Thank you. And so it's an important report. We are required under the act to submit it on an annual basis by the end of the calendar year. So it will be postmarked and delivered before the end of this year, hopefully before Christmas. But that's my goal. But it will have, for example, our concise financial statement, which you heard in our last meeting, was completed. As well as a list of all of our activities, summary of all of our activities for the year, our budget, our bylaws, which haven't changed this year, as well as membership, and membership did change this year. We had the resignation of Carla Hodge, we had the addition at the beginning of the year, Maria Kelly. So, oh, and Mike is there. I am sorry, Mike, so you're there as well. So, we have had some changes that all get reported to the Commonwealth as part of our official obligation as an independent Commonwealth entity. So hopefully that gets done, and I believe they've already authorized you to sign the cover letter, but maybe just in case it hasn't.
Okay, I don't think.
That would be a motion that
Yeah.
would be approved to allow the chair to sign the cover letter for the submission of the annual section 207 report, which goes to the Commonwealth.
I'll make that motion.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
That's all I have for.
And Jeffrey and I have talked, and we're sending it to the same old people. We might just not put their titles, because this is one that goes to the appropriation committee.
We're not sure.
So it's sort of like question mark there, but
Everybody said it to 4 people and just.
we'll have a little fun with that. But thank you, Jeffrey, and we will
Thank
get that done. Any other new business? Madra's here. This is also completing your first year, right? As Less than 6 months. Oh, less than, oh, right, 'cause it wasn't immediately.
That's right.
Okay, sorry. Yes, thank you for being here and thank you, Beth, for being here. Did anything you want to share? Okay, all right. Well, we thank you for being here all the time.
Okay,
I'll
so,
get it to
so we have a
Jeff.
couple of people in the audience who maybe have some questions for us. So we'll open it up for public comment for tonight's meeting. So please introduce yourself and your name for the purposes of the people on video
Thanks for the cookies.
and cookies as well.
Yeah, but for Governor Wolf's reference, I have to.
The evidence will disappear.
Yeah, so this is our third year here, third solicitor, by the way. You say, through the month, and so we don't, I'm pretty disappointed with the city of Harrisburg, and I'll just be very pointed. We track a number of agencies. The last 5 days we've been at SERS, the Gaming Control Board, and we finished the week at PSERS. There's significant resources there. I would point out the city of Harrisburg is been derelict with the right to know request. And there's three main issues that are outstanding. And so to be frank with you, we're going to sue the city of Harrisburg. I'm just done playing games with them and getting accused that they're way out of line. But the three issues mirror some of the issues that you articulated on September 22nd. Obviously, the neighborhood services fund. And all we've done is ask them to document the statements they've made in the budget. And you have copies there, and they have not. They've asked for 3 different continuances, which is extraordinary. It doesn't happen. In fact, there is no mechanism for it, to be honest with you, at the Office of Open Records. The other issue we're frustrated with is we simply pursued and asked to quantify the savings in healthcare, have them specify if they use to carve in or carve out. This is not really breaking any new technology here. There's been no response. And of course, the third is on the OPEC. So as a courtesy to you, I had a copy of the second extension and the third extension. You have them. It's actually quite unique given the number of right to know requests we process every year. This is essentially what we do. I would also point out that we have 2 other concerns. I don't know if they're going to have an impact on the budget, but I don't know if you know there's new rules and regulations concerning air quality. And the incinerator, which is operated by Laxwama, just acknowledged that they'll be making a minimum of $10 million in investments to upgrade their facility, which is probably better than ours. It's in Kenoi Township. I think it's something you should be aware of. I don't know how it impacts the budget, but I don't know how you would escape. And I think you still have the liability issue that we've addressed at the outset. I think you still own the city, that is not the ICA, the incinerator. And by any definition, again, this is how we got involved. That's hazardous waste. It's arsenic, it's cadmium, it's lead, it's mercury. It ain't going anywhere. And a lot of those ash pits, and I'm going to keep saying the same thing until we're done, either has a 0 liner or a single line. This is a really antiquated, environmentally unsound way to isolate waste. So there's a potential for exposure there, but I guess my takeaway is that the thing we're most concerned about is that saving for a minimal amount on pension obligation, and we've asked for a specific UAL and haven't gotten it. And you're the only entity, the city, that's going down this road. I don't know if Brian wants to talk about it, and I don't even know if it impacts you, but at every other agency we meet with, especially SERS last week, there's an assumption moving forward that interest rates are going to revert to traditionally low interest rates. And that is not an assumption that we share. So when we're looking out, and it's a little different from SERS and PSERS because they have to make an annual contribution estimate. Tomorrow, actually Friday will be PSERS, SERS, and this is not going to be in the media until February. SERS may be increasing their pension contribution from members 40%. All right, I don't know what's going to be for PSERS, and that's why we're about the most unpopular entity that attends these meetings, but we'll know on Friday. Suffice to say that I don't know if it was Ralph, somebody else. We just don't have very optimistic, robust assumptions for coming budgets based on budget presentations we've heard at every other agency. So I'm just sharing, I don't know if you wanted to say anything to that.
No, I think you covered most of it. I guess the liability going forward.
So, well, and I appreciate the fact you allow us to offer comment. I'm sure other people may want to comment, and I regret that we've got here, but I've been in communication with Neil. So this is not going to be a surprise to him. But the process was not constructed that when you make a request on August 28th, you respond by 2023. And frankly, we have no other choice but to sue the city. Otherwise, we will have established a precedent that essentially puts us out of business. You know, we require timely and accurate information. So I hate to be Debbie Downer, but I have nothing else to say other than that's been our experience. Also want to say for your new member coming aboard, it should be quick. The Gaming Control Board, Costa appointed a senator, well, a guy who would have been Senator Quinlan today at the Gaming Control Board. And maybe other people have better insight, but I think to get a full complement's a good thing.
Yes. Thank you. Obviously, we can't comment on a specific piece of legal action, but we really appreciate you coming to our meetings, keeping us informed.
Sure.
And it informs us when we communicate with the city as well, that we know what's going on. So
Well, if Mesh 2 doesn't work out, Mesh 3 is ready.
that's right. There you go. You never know, Eric.
That is Mesh.
Oh. That's fun.
Thank you, Brian. You said you had nothing else you wanted to offer.
Yeah, I'll
Okay. And sir, I will.
My name's Ted Tonitis. I serve as Lower Susquehanna River Keeper. I came in here to serve.
We love having you.
And, you know, just, I mean, you know, I do a lot of work within Harrisburg, within the city itself. You know, and it just comes to my head, I mean, I might as well talk about it at least a little bit, just so everyone in the room's aware. You know, the city of Harrisburg has an antiquated sewer system. I think everyone knows that. I think there, you know, the sentiment is there, and we have huge issues within the city itself. And, you know, it is my mission as the river keeper and protecting our water to make sure that our communities are safe and have, you know, safe areas to recreate, swim, and build and fish, etc. You know, I'm not aware of any, you know, funding mechanisms that the city has to address these issues. I know that there is a stormwater fee that municipalities or at least businesses and residents and, you know, nonprofits, and hopefully the state starts paying those fees, which we hope legislation passes to address that. But is there any other mechanisms that the city has within itself and its budget to provide for additional funding to address these issues? I'm not aware, and I'd like to hear from you guys.
Well, I think the answer is we have a good relationship with Capital Region Water. They've been to our meetings. They're an independent authority, but obviously they're charged as part of that mission to deal with stormwater management inside the limits of the city. And I think that Marita, who is the representative on the board from the city, has spoken about that the city and the administration is well aware of the antiquated infrastructure. I don't want to put words into your mouth, Marita, but I know you've stated those things. So while we don't have any direct relationship with addressing those issues, because we're more financial watchdog agency, we know that the partners that we've talked to, both Capital Region Water and the city itself, are very aware and are concerned about the issues you focus on. And once again, just like with Mr. Epstein, you coming here and telling us of your concerns informs the dialogue that we continue to have with the administration. So it's good to hear from you and to have you here, and for you to express your concern about water quality and the role that the city of Harrisburg plays in that. And then our board can go and follow up on that with the administration in the future.
Sure, and I sincerely appreciate that. You know, we hope to see, you know, without getting into detail, because there's, you know, there will be another legal document that will be presented shortly, that we will have some more deadlines and stipulations to end this, but, you know, there's a certain shortfall of cash and funding for this. And from what I understand, it is seen as though Capital Region Water has I don't know where to put it, but issues with getting any state revolving fund money from Penvest. You know, and I know that there's been previous projects that have been on Penvest's list of priorities, where Harrisburg and our city here has been #1 top priority. So I don't know if this group has conversations with Penvest And, I'd like to know and learn more about how Penvest allocates funding and how, how monies can be spent here in our city because we desperately need it. And that's, there is a ton of money coming in, and for at least for Capital Region Water to let those opportunities slip away. I'm just not seeing, I basically want more information. There's such a big opportunity now for the next couple of years, is that money's, here that it should be used for.
It's great, and that, like I said, that really helps the board when they dialogue with their counterparts at Capital Region Water to follow up on your concerns and say what's going on. So we appreciate it. Thank you. Anybody else, any follow-up questions, or appreciate all the dialogue and the participation? And I will turn it back over to the chair.
So the last action for the last meeting, 2022, is asking for a motion to adjourn. And that concludes.
Our next meeting is
Our next meeting is, I don't know,
January
January something.
January 25th.
Okay,
So we will see everybody.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas, happy holidays, happy New Year.
exactly. Eat some cookies or
Thank
take some cookies.
Thank you very much. 4:41.